Hello and welcome to the program. My name is Michael Finney. Today I am joined by author John C. Wright. Would you like to say hello, sir?
Hello to you and hello to your listeners.
Let's talk a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you did growing up, what drove you to be passionate about reading and writing and books.
I was the son of a naval officer. We moved around a lot when I was young, from one coast to another coast. I didn't make many friends because we kept moving every few years. And I was the youngest in my family, so I was not able to compete athletically with my older brothers. They would simply win every contest. So I retreated into a bookish world. And at I got into the habit of reading 2 or 3 books a day. I would go to the library with my hot little library card when I first got it, and come back with 10 or 20 books piled up like the burdens on a dromedary. And unlike everyone else I know, I've known what I've wanted to do with my entire life. I've always wanted to be a science fiction writer. I don't really have any skills or abilities otherwise. I did, however, try to make money first as a lawyer and then as a newspaperman. So my career has spanned being an attorney, being a newsman, and being a fiction writer, the 3 most dishonest professions where no one tells the truth.
Got him.
My first story was published about 1999.
Fantastic.
Oh, I will say one other thing about my background. My first novel came out in 2000, and in January, Publishers Weekly, as a joke, said I was the most significant new writer of the new millennium. And of course, they were talking about the first 2 weeks of the new millennium.
Hey, 2 weeks is better than no weeks, right?
No. I continue to quote them as the third millennium's most significant science fiction author.
Let's talk a little bit about your influences. Who did you read? Who do you look to as the folks you want to emulate?
That is unfortunately very easy to detect from anyone who actually picks up and reads one of my books, because you can see exactly who I'm copying. My main influence was A.E. Van Vogt, the author of Slan and of World of Nalé. The Widow allowed me to write a sequel to my favorite book by my favorite author.
That's incredible.
Which I'm not going to say is a dream come true, because I never even dared to dream such a thing. But I wrote Nalé Continuum based in A.E. Van Vogt's background. I also wrote a Jack Vance story for an homage anthology in Jack Vance's Dying Earth, and with all due respect, I was cheek and jowl among the biggest names in the fantasy field. But if I can just be a little immodest for a second, I'm the only one who could mimic Jack Vance's vocabulary correctly. I'm the only one who could do his little trick of using orotund and sesquipedalian words. So I was very pleased with that. I wish I could be influenced by Gene Wolfe, but he's too smart for me. I can't actually copy his methods or his. And in my current book, I'm quite deliberately and quite obviously trying to copy Star Wars, by which I mean I'm trying to copy their influences, the original Star Wars influences, which is the pulp serials from the 1940s, Spy Smasher, Lee Falk's The Phantom, The Shadow by Walter Gibson, and so on and so forth. Let me see if I can mention anyone else who is an influence. No, I can't. I unfortunately, I'll think of it. I'll think of it 5 minutes from now, but I can't think of it right now.
Hey, 5 minutes from now is fine as well.
But there was another writer who I did an homage for, and I did a pitch perfect copy of their writing style a while back, and now I can't bring it to mind. So sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just remembered. The Nightlands by William Hope Hodgson. Andy Robertson used to write a website of people who were writing fan fiction for him. And I was the first professional author who came in to write a fan fiction for him. And he paid me top dollar for it. And my Awake in the Nightland won awards, was reprinted in the year's best, like two different anthologies from 2 different editors. And so I'm also have been influenced by William Hope Hodgson, and through William Hope Hodgson, I've been influenced by H.P. Lovecraft, who also shows up some of the Cthulhian mythos, mood, and flavor. Some of the approach shows up in my current work as well.
Love it.
So Jack Vance, H.P. Lovecraft, Lord Dunsany a little bit, and A. E. Van Vogt are my basic influences. Keith Laumer, when I can get up the energy to try to copy him. He's a rather masculine and energetic writer. If you haven't read him, it's you should go back and find a few of his books.
I'm always looking for recommendations. Can you give us a little bit of additional background on your turn from other professions into becoming a writer specifically? Maybe what the landscape was like, what your experience was like, and how you made that pivot.
I didn't actually make the pivot. The other professions I practiced were only to make money to support my writing habit. And I was just a flop as a lawyer, as an attorney. In fact, when I graduated from St. Mary's, William and Mary's Marshall Wythe School of Law, out of 235 graduating members, I was 233rd in my class, which means somewhere in the Commonwealth of Virginia there are two lawyers more ignorant than I am.
Well,
so don't hire them for your traffic ticket. Basically, all I did is I followed the. I went to the library. I got a copy of the Writer's Guide. This was back in the day before the internet had completely upended the publication model. So back in those days, I knew what to do. I knew how to write a book, send in a cover letter, send it around, try to get an agent, things like that. Nowadays, I have no idea what to do, and I'm afraid my sales are not as lucrative as I should like. Even though now I'm a full-time writer, I just this year I gave up my other jobs just to concentrate on writing.
Hey, that's growth.
Basically, to be a writer, you have to write. Either set yourself a quota by hours or set yourself a quota by words, but get the writing done. Then once it's done, you have to shop it around. I was fortunate enough to marry a woman who also wanted to be a writer, who otherwise would not put up with my unwillingness to make money as an attorney. And she had been the publication assistant for a small publisher called Blue Jay Books, run by
Tor.
No, Tor came later. Jim Franco was the name, and he later did work for Tor Books, and so through her I had an into the inside of the industry. When my first published short story came out in Analog Magazine, David Hartwell, one of the editors at Blue Jay Books, one of the editors at Tor Books, actually sought me out during a science fiction convention. In fact, when I was talking in the green room, one of the other authors turned to me and said, "Hey, are you John Wright?" I said, "I have that privilege." He said, "I heard that Tor Books was looking for you. They because I can't think of his name. I just said it. He's the only guy who ever wore a tie at a science fiction convention." And Tor Books and I were not on good terms. That was after the Sad Puppies fiasco. So he was my only last contact at Tor Books. So when he passed away, I broke my ties with them. To continue, I was at a science fiction convention, and one of my fellow authors, when I was in the green room, when he heard my name, said, "Oh, you're John Wright." And I said, "Yes, I have that privilege." And he said, "So I've heard that you're the man to read. Tor Books is looking for you. They want to know if you have any manuscripts." And of course, I did have a manuscript because I did take my own advice, and I wrote every day, even before I knew whether or not I was going to be able to sell anything. You see, so I passed to Tor Books my first two books, which was a fantasy story called Last Guardian of Everness and a science fiction story called The Golden Age. And The Golden Age got more than a little bit of both critical applause and fan applause, and that's what started me on my career.
Love it. You've been doing this for let's call it a hefty 25 years.
Correct.
Who amongst our scene out there today do you like, or do you admire, or do you want to give a shout out to that you think is a good read or just good people?
Larry Correia. He is my hero, because when the same people who tried to drive me out of the industry based on my politics tried to drive him out of the industry based on his politics, he didn't back down. And he also writes fun, gun-toting action-adventure stories starring people shooting werewolves, except when occasionally he writes a story about Hindus on a foreign planet fighting against demons with magical swords. So Larry Correia, Correia. Now, unfortunately, all my other favorite authors, because of my advanced age, are dead. So I can't really. I can recommend guys from the 1960s and 70s that you may not have heard of that have been forgotten by now. But of more recent authors, I don't read that many. I did read the first 12 or so books of the endless supply of Galaxy's Edge books by Nick Cole and his co-author. So he's also a fun read.
Let's talk about your existing catalog, all of the work you have published and who it has been released by, and maybe even a little bit of that turn that you've made from working with, the big publishers like Tor to some of the folks that we should know more about, or even self-publishing.
Unfortunately, that's a little difficult for me because, as you can tell, my memory is a little spotty, and my wife is the one who handles all of the financial aspects of my business. So I don't really know the names of my editors and so on and so forth. I can give you some.
Well, you can just tell the publishers. We don't need necessarily the editors so much.
Well, Tuscany Bay Books is publishing Starquest. Lost on the Last Continent was done by Theogony Books. The Unwithering Realm was done by Wisecraft Publishing and by Superversive Press. Superliminary was done by Castalia House, which is run by the notorious Fox Day, who also published Iron Chamber of Memory and Moth and Cobweb. Count to the Eschaton was Tor Books, as was Nelly Continuum, Chronicles of Chaos, and Books of Everness. And I have a number of appearances in anthologies.
How many releases do you have? How many books in total? Let's just do books. And if you want to give us short stories or anthology participation or anything like that, that's fine.
I've lost count. It's between 35 and 40.
Wow. That is amazing.
I write a book a year.
Yeah.
Or thanks to the notorious Fox Day, I upped my production to two a year.
How did you manage that?
I would work a full day's work. I would come home. I would spend 4 to 6 hours ignoring my family in front of the typewriter.
Brutal.
It's fun when you're inspired. It's not fun when you're not inspired.
Absolutely.
But you do it anyway if you want to be a pro.
I agree.
Now my production has decreased recently, which is one reason why I quit my day job and just started to write full time.
Tell us a little bit about the narrative arc of the Starquest series.
You're using a fancy term, narrative arc. The story concerns a galaxy close at hand, Andromeda Galaxy, long, long in the future rather than in the past, because I don't want to be accused of copying anything. So there's an evil galactic empire that has recently been overthrown, and so I start the story at the sequels of the original story, which is not written; it just exists in the background, where a ragtag group of mystic knights and smugglers and wealthy dukes and pirate queens and so on had cooperated with comedy relief robots and big furry starship pilots to overthrow the galactic empire, the greatest empire. This starts with their children, who have to fight against the remnant of the greatest empire, which is not dead and which is regrowing on the in the frontier. And the empire had not only outlawed the study and practice of Curlian talents of psychic powers, they had also made it illegal to believe such things were real. So most people don't even know that there is such a thing as mystic powers. The story opens with my 7-year-old main character, Lyra Centauri, a princess, because you have to have a space princess in stories of this type, on the day when her planet's sun is extinguished by the greatest empire and everyone she knows, including her parents, die horribly. and she alone survives and escapes in a spaceship with her the family chauffeur jets the robot pilot, and the robot has to raise the little girl from 7 years old, and he's not that good at it. We then skip forward to the current day when there are military threats, spiritual threats, pirates, and an international crime syndicate, and the children of the heroes include a spy master who pretends to be a drunk, and of course I copied that idea directly from Zorro, and from who copied from Batman, who copied it from Zorro, who copied it from Percy Brakely, who copied it from Scarlet Pimpernel.
The lineage.
The pirates are convinced that there is someone called the Ancient Mariner who is a man who died swearing vengeance against all piracy, who has been alive for hundreds of years. What's really going on, of course, is there is a death mask of the original man that was taken from his grave, which is haunted by some sort of either a computerized system or a magical talisman or a spirit or something or other, which no one understands, which is either technology or magic no one understands, that has been passed from father to son for generations. Now, of course, that idea I just stole directly from Lee Falk's The Phantom. But the Ancient Mariner is the servant of vengeance, which is currently being carried by the ace agent of Star Patrol, Athos Lone. And there is a mysterious cat burglar, a young lady who is breaking into the houses of the wealthy and powerful, and stealing very expensive rarities. And is she a good guy or is she a bad guy? You'll have to read to find out. And of course, there are also, like I said, space pirates and space gangsters and an evil galactic empire. Oh, and my galactic empire is the best galactic empire. Let me tell you why.
Please.
One of my main characters is the one of my 5 main characters is a centurion of the Inquisition Death Guard, and the centurion is a clone who's been raised, from a bottle by the Empire, and everything he knows is a lie. The Empire does not tell the truth about anything. They don't. It's official doctrine that there's no such thing as psychic powers, and so the Inquisition is trying to hunt down people who believe in psychics. But this guy, of course, has seen too much evidence. He knows that they're real. He knows that the Mystic Knights of the Mystic Templar Knights of the Old Republic are real. And everything in the Empire which is not compulsory is forbidden. Once again, you can T.H. White made that line up, but I did copy it. So what I did in this story is I took everything I liked from shows like serials like The Spy Smasher, or like Lee Falk's The Phantom, or like The Shadow, and so on, and just put them all into one huge pulp ball, which I intend to roll down the slopes of modern day boring, politically correct science fiction, and smash it into a gigantic explosion of pure pulpy action. So I try to kill my main character at least 5 times a book. I mean, having one cliffhanger is not enough for me. So, and there's a romance too.
We do like the pulpy juice.
There are people who you asked me earlier about what's on the scene. A few years ago, and I hope they're still around, there were guys called the Pulp Revolution who wanted to get us back to our roots, because I think science fiction has taken a wrong turn, especially after the about 2015, 2016, where they simply stopped writing the kind of stories and publishing the kind of stories that readers want to read, for a reason that is nigh incomprehensible to me. I can only suspect a sinister motive, maybe even a supernatural one. And I would like to see a return to science fiction that is fun, as well as being, as scientifically accurate or inaccurate as the readers want. So this one, by the way, I've written hard SF before. I've written very scientifically accurate SF. This is not that.
That's okay.
This is pulp. I throw planets around like marbles in a child's game. So there are more gigantic explosions and more planets and stars blow up there during this war than I'm used to.
Let's drill down into Sinister Syndicate of Space. What can you tell us?
Before we do that, before your next question, I want to make one last comment about my philosophy of how to write space opera.
Okay.
Because space opera was originally a term of disdain for something that was just a hacky horse opera type redo of other things. But over time, it came to mean anything that was glorious and gigantic and like Star Wars, where there was action, adventure, and larger than life heroes facing off against darker than life villains. Okay? So, in trying to revive the pulp motif, the pulp philosophy, I want to write space opera, which is what this is. So, my definition, if anyone asked me what's a space opera, I said, if your home planet does not get blown up in the course of the show, it is not a space opera. So, Star Wars, Planet Alderaan gets blown up. Space opera. You see how this works?
Yep.
So anything by the Lensman series by Doc E. Smith, planet gets blown up. Space opera. So next question, you're going to ask me about Sinister Syndicate of Space.
Yeah. What can you tell us about Sinister Syndicate of Space without necessarily giving away any spoilers that people would be uncomfortable knowing in advance of reading the title?
Okay. I noticed that my favorite space opera movie had been poorly handled by the sequels. And I thought that I should write it in a way that handled it well. And there are 2 or 3 things that show up in my favorite space opera movie. One is that there's a military threat formed by an evil empire of guys who have stormtroopers. One is that there is a psychic threat. There's a mystical threat by a black knight, a dark overlord named Dark Father, or something very similar to that. But one is that there was a vile gangster who was running a smuggling operation and needed a diet. So when I wrote my thinly disguised version of my favorite space opera, and by the way, I'm not really trying to disguise it. I want people to think of this as my answer to what Disney should have done. I said, okay, there has to be an intergalactic, an interstellar web of vile gangsters, of international criminals who are menacing the universe and are cooperating with the Empire as the Empire tries to regrow. And of course, the Sinister Syndicate of Space is the interstellar criminal organization, which is being hunted down by one of the main characters. The Spy Masters runs a group of adventurers who are agents, I should say, who are trying to track down and find out who the mysterious leader of the mysterious hidden leader of the organization is, the Faceless Man. And Sinister Syndicate of Space is the 8th book in my series, and I've set up a lot of this beforehand, but this is the one where they finally get what's coming to them. So, the syndicate consists of, if I can just wax poetical for a second.
You may.
There's an assassination bureau called the Murder Trust. There is a mysterious figure called the Fixer, who is the guy who makes sure that criminals who get caught don't come to trial, either by one means or another. There is the slavers organization called the Consortium of Involuntary Servitude Facilitators, which is run out of an expensive hotel on Septentrion, which is my main planet. There are a group of there's a gambling ring. There are arms merchants. There's vice lords who sell Bethlehem and thionite and all sorts of other science fiction drugs that you can get high off of. And the Pirate King is also a member of this organization because the pirates cooperate with the smugglers and with the slavers. You see. Now, but one of my main characters, Athos Lone, ace agent of Star Patrol, is disguised as a pirate, has joined a pirate band, and has to work his way up from first mate to captain to commodore to Pirate King, while at the same time not fighting and killing his fellow naval officers or Star Patrolmen, which is, I shall simply say, is a little difficult for him to do. So he's actually invited to the meeting, and the one small spoiler I will give is that the number of people who make it out alive of the meeting of the Secret Seven, which is the name of the leadership of the Interstellar Crime Syndicate, is not a high number. No one comes out of the meeting room alive. So there is that. He is being helped by a mysterious woman that only he can see. Because his father was one of the galactic heroes, and his grandfather was one of the Galactic Dark Lords. His name was Lord Doomshadow, was the Galactic Dark Lord. His father rebelled against him during the previous war. That's my background. So he has the second sight. He's a little psychic, so he can see this ghost of a girl who apparently is astrally projecting or is somehow sending her soul or her essential self through Curlian auras across the galaxy, and he can see her and she can see him and talk to him, but she can't. She's not physically there. She can't actually affect anything, and she saves his life once or twice. She is also one of the main characters told from another point of view. That's Lyra Centauri, my star maiden, my shrine maiden.
Sounds familiar. I might have heard some of this stuff somewhere, a little bit. What can you tell us about your publisher, Tuscany Bay Books?
You should have heard all of it from somewhere because I'm trying to copy the most traditional tropes of science fiction that I can. I can't tell you anything about Tuscany Bay Books because my wife handles all the financial affairs for the family.
We love Jaji, right?
She's the one who talks to the publisher, and she's the one who establishes the deal. The guy's been very generous to us. That's all I can say.
That's fantastic. Well, in that case, are there any things that we haven't talked about or thoughts that you'd like to share that you haven't said thus far?
No, because you have my basic reason for writing this book. The thing that was driving me was, of all things, I felt sorry for the actor who played Luke Skywalker.
Reasonable.
Yeah, that's the one. And when I saw him being interviewed, he looked so woebegone and so lost when he had to portray how his heroic character had turned into an unheroic, wasted and lost old man in a little movie called The Last Jedi. But he was not allowed, of course, contractually not allowed to criticize the movie that he himself was in, nor was he allowed to change the character. He had to read the lines he was given as they were written. So I said, someone has to write the story. Someone has to put his money where his mouth is. I've criticized that movie tremendously. In fact, I wrote an entire book called The Last Straw, criticizing The Last Jedi, which I think is actually technically, fundamentally, the worst science fiction movie ever made. And I wanted to write something that if it was ever made into a movie, he or someone of his spirit could act in without being ashamed. Because what's the point of writing an adventure story where your hero is not a hero?
Very much agree on that point.
I can understand writing a film noir where you have an anti-hero or you have a guy who has a rough edge. I've mentioned Larry Correia. His latest and greatest book, Heart of the Mountain, which is book number 6 in his Forgotten Warrior series, starts out with a guy who's basically a killing machine, almost a psychopath who's been hypnotized by black magic to be the perfect killing machine, and he slowly learns how to become human. Very very gripping, very entertaining book, you say. But even in that book, even if the character starts as a villainous figure, he's got to turn into a hero by the end. Otherwise, it's not a story about a hero. Now, don't get me wrong. You can write a tragedy. You can write a book where the guy has many virtues, but his one tragic flaw leads him to overweening pride, and he encompasses his own self-destruction. That's actually some of the more thrilling, more gripping, more memorable works of literature, tragedies rather than comedies. But if you're going to write Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers cannot turn out to be a creep. He's got to be larger than life. So that's my take on the philosophy of writing and my reason for writing this book. And I'm hoping that there are enough fans out there who want to see good old-fashioned, over-the-top, thrilling, funny, exciting, guns blazing space opera. I hope there's enough people who want to see this kind of material that I can sell these books.
I bet there are.
Well, at least one guy couldn't tell if I was writing. Our generation is so cynical. One guy, a friend of mine, said, "Is this a satire?" I said, "No, it is not a satire. If you cannot write a book called Space Pirates of Andromeda and take it seriously, you are not a fan of the pulps." If you can't write a book called Secret Agents of the Galaxy, Outlaw of the Outer Stars, Cat Burglar of the Constellations, Scourge of the Spaceways, that title, Scourge of the Spaceways, I took directly from a fictional space opera written by a Robert Heinlein character, not written by Robert Heinlein, that appears in his book, The Rolling Stones. So I said, hey, there's a perfectly good title no one's using. I'll use it for mine. If you want action and excitement and adventure and romance, then you got to find my books.
Well, John, this has been a good conversation. I know we've talked before, but I feel like this was very in-depth, and I got to know you better.
Excellent. You are still a complete mystery to me, however. So at some point we're gonna have to meet again. Maybe you'll tell me your background.
Sure. Yeah. You know, this is not about me. This is really about being able to offer other folks an opportunity to grandstand a little bit and talk passionately.
I am very grateful for any ounce of publicity you can give me, because I said before earlier in the conversation, I said I did know how to navigate and negotiate through the West Coast, the big West Coast publishers, and I got the biggest publisher and I got the best editor. But after the internet took over the field, I have no idea how to find fans. I do all the things that are advised to me. Nothing seems to work. I don't think it's because of the merit of the book. I don't think my books are bad. They've won awards. You know, I got the first ever Dragon Award for my Sunwither, the best novel of the year. First time the Dragon Award was ever given out, it was given to me. I was up for 6 Nebula Awards in 2016, I think, which is more than any other author for any given year. 6. So I don't think it's me, but I do want to get any publicity I can. And I want to thank you for helping me do that.
My pleasure. Happy to have you on. John, I want to thank you for taking the time today, and we will talk again before too long.
I hope so.